Hi, everybody. Welcome to the International Women's Writing Guild's monthly member book spotlight, featuring an anthology called The Collection, Flash Fiction for Flash Memory, co-edited by Kathleen O'Connor and Ann Anthony, who are joining us tonight or today, depending on where you're logging in from. And they're going to be interviewed by Greta, Sesheta. I'm going to tell you all, I'll introduce you to Greta, and she'll introduce you to Kathleen and Ann. But in the meantime, I want to explain to you how to use your functionality as attendees. You can't be seen or heard, but you can communicate with us using the chat room, which is on your toolbar. There's a chat room. Click on the chat, and you'll see that there's a drop-down menu with a 2, and then a drop-down menu, all panelists and attendees. All the attendees are you, the 4 of us are your panelists. And then you can also send a message to individuals. You can do that. And if you want to let us know where you're dialing in from or logging in from, please do so. And I'm now going to introduce you to Greta. The reason why I'm pausing is because I'm not seeing our attendee account changing, folks. So I just want to make sure our system is okay. I'm guessing that it's okay. I'm not seeing attendees, the attendee count changing. So, Greta, Sesheta, thank you for agreeing to introduce Kathleen O'Connor and Ann Anthony. I thought that you and Kathleen would be a good pairing because I understand you both to be women who have a metaphysical sensibility. Greta, you're a reverend for Agape, a church in Culver City, California that I've attended once and loved, and I pay attention to the teachings that come out of your church. And Kathleen, I know you to be the author or anthologist of books on dreams and prayers and angels and all of that good divine stuff. And so this was the reason I paired the two of you together. I'm going to hand the reins over to you, Greta, for you to introduce Kathleen and Ann and begin your interview.
Thank you, Marge. How are you?
I'm really good.
Good.
This is good.
I'm just wondering because there aren't any attendees that are listed, so I just wonder if there's something we should check or.
I'm going to check. I'm going to mute myself, and I'm going to stop my video, and I'll be checking in on that.
Because we are recording, so even if people are not able to join us right now, when they are able to listen, they'll be able to hear everything.
Yeah, we post this to our YouTube channel, IWWG channel, and I also send an email to everybody.
Oh, perfect. Wonderful. So welcome, everyone. And I'm really excited to be here and this opportunity to introduce this wonderful book and these wonderful authors and editors to you. The book is called The Collection, Flash Fiction for Flash Memory. This is an anthology that is co-edited by Ann Anthony and Kathleen O'Connor. And we'll talk about why this book may be of interest to you. We'll get to that in just a bit, beyond the fact that the stories are really, really interesting and fun. And we'll talk a little bit about the kinds of stories that they were looking for. But first, I'd like you to meet Ann Anthony, who is, of course, a writer and a photographer. She lives in North Carolina. Her prose, poetry, and photographs have been published in Poetry South, Crack the Spine, Dead Mule School for Southern Literature, Literary Orphans, the North Carolina Literary Review, and other places. She has a BA in English from New York University, an MA in Social Work from the University of Maryland, and an MA in Professional Writing from Carnegie Mellon University. She's the owner of Anchala Studios. So welcome, Ann, and would you just say a little bit about yourself and how you're feeling today and how you feel about being in the spotlight?
Thank you, Greta. I appreciate being given the spotlight. I am excited tonight to be part of this book project and the releasing of the book tomorrow. It was exciting to work with all of the writers and photographers over these last 6 months. This is something that's new to me. I've been a writer, but I haven't been an editor before. So maybe we can talk a little bit later on about what that experience was like, being on the other side of the submissions process. But I think that's pretty much all I have to say right now.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And then Kathleen O'Connor is also a writer, a speaker, a teacher, an intuitive, and a writing coach who helps other writers to get their work out into the world. She lives in New York, and her articles have been published in Canada's Alive magazine and Australia's The Sphere. She's been featured on ABC News in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and quoted in the Huffington Post. She's a regular columnist for the numerologist.com blog in the personal growth section. She also has a doctorate degree in metaphysical studies, and she's on the board of the International Women's Writing Guild. Kathleen, will you say hello and let us know how you're feeling right now?
Hi, Greta. Thank you. And so happy to be here with Anne to talk about our book. I'm excited because the actual launch day for the book is tomorrow. So this is just perfect to be here talking about it the night before. And as you noted, there's a lot of wonderful stories in it. So this was really a fun experience, getting to meet a lot of these writers from all over the country and the UK, and getting to see all these different perspectives. And like Anne, the editing side of it, sort of requires a different part of the brain. And I do editing for clients as well in my regular work. But it definitely is a different skill set. But it's great to get to use it working with an anthology. I've done an anthology before. And you really get to sort of stretch yourself when you have so many different people and so many stories. And for myself, I'm really working on fiction right now. So this was perfect. I got to write a short fiction piece myself, and it's inspired me to keep going on my novel that I'm working on. And we're so excited to be here to talk about the project and the book.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kathleen. So Anne, why don't you, I think you're the one that caught this divine idea for this book. Will you tell us a little bit about how that happened?
Sure. A little over a year ago, my mother passed away, and my mom was a great lover of reading. She would read novels, and as her memory started going, as she got older, she started reading short stories. I remember walking in the house one time when I was visiting my parents, and her having a whole collection of short story books. I'm like, Mom, what's going on? Because she'd always read novels, and she said, well, I have enough memory to remember a short story. I just can't do the novel anymore. And I hadn't really known about flash fiction until I came down to North Carolina and went to one of the North Carolina Writers Network's workshops. They had started them up in the Durham County and Chapel Hill Orange County back in 2015, and I was exposed to this whole new form of fiction, flash fiction. And I guess when I was after my mother had passed away, I started telling people how much she loved to read, and somehow that it got connected that she had just had flash fiction anthologies or flash fiction to read. She probably could have read much longer in her life, because it was just something that she took such joy in and such pleasure, that I really wish this had been something that had been available to her. And even if I had been the one to read it to her, I think she would have enjoyed it. Because when you read something that's between 500 and 750 words, that takes 5 minutes. And, you know, even all the way to the end of her life, I think that's something that she probably could have listened to and enjoyed and been entertained. So I started thinking more and more about it, and I had contacted Kathleen, knowing that she had done an anthology with her angel prayers, and ran the idea by her. So, you know, Kathleen thought it was a great idea, thought it would be good to co-edit it to this anthology together, and then, you know, I'm going to let Kathleen talk about our trip to Philadelphia.
What did happen after she brought this great idea to you and you agreed it was a great idea? Then what did you two do?
We met in Philadelphia because I'm in New York and Anne's in Chapel Hill, and we rented an Airbnb place, and we basically spent 2 days, I guess, 2 full days, really planning and deciding, you know, how we would approach it and what we would do. So that was a great way to sort of kickstart the whole effort, to spend that time together and to really get clear on how we were going to approach it, and the use of Submittable, for example, to get submissions. And, you know, recognizing, I think, for both of us, Anne is much more familiar with submission processes. She's taught workshops on, you know, how to submit at the summer conference for the Guild. And it gives writers a wonderful opportunity to get their work out there without having to be on their own and try to find representation or self-publish. You know, they're able, even if it's just a short piece, they're able to see their words in print. So it's really a wonderful opportunity, and it was a great way, I think, for us to collaborate and for us to bring together a lot of wonderful stories.
So you got together for these 2 days, and is that where you came up with the ideas for the things you were going to ask people to submit?
Yes, we really planned out the project. We figured out, you know, that we wanted to do it for Read Across America Day, which is tomorrow. That's why that's the launch day. And we discussed all the various pieces of it, and Anne developed the project plan while we were in Philadelphia.
So Anne sent me the some of the things that you were asking for when you were asking people to submit. You were saying that you wanted flash fiction stories and captivating photographs. So flash fiction stories that showed humanity at its best possible light, in its best possible light, but also showed its frailties or fallibilities. Stories that quicken the heart, and the search for compassion when people don't do the right thing. And a lot of times it's because the right thing is a more difficult thing to do. Mm-hmm. You wanted stories that show the strength of the human spirit when hardship and setback are part of the experience. You wanted people that weren't necessarily superheroes or angels or saints. I guess that translates into real people. You wanted stories about real people, and that stories that showed our strength and our frailty. So when these stories started coming in, Anne, maybe you could speak about how you, I mean, did you pick stories out of a hat? How did you decide which stories you wanted to select?
Well, you know, what you just read was pretty broad, and it was intentionally broad. And one of the things that we were looking to do was to bring together a mix of stories. You know, some would be kind of mysterious, some would be romantic, some would be funny. There's some really funny stories in this collection. And I think what we looked for was strong writing. Just because someone writes 500 to 750 words doesn't mean it's flash fiction. So we were looking for something that was complete, beginning, middle, end, that was compelling, that at the end of the story you said, yeah, that was a good one. And it's weird, not weird, but Kathleen and I really both felt pretty much on all the stories that we accepted, we were very much aligned, that, yep, we both agreed this is a good story.
Tell us,
So we were looking for that. We were looking for the
what do you mean by, what's the definition of flash fiction? It's not short fiction, or what is flash fiction?
Flash fiction is typically considered anything that's 1,000 words or less. Is something that you don't have the luxury of character development as much as you might have in a short story and a novel, but it's definitely leads you down a plot line, and is the writing has to be tight because every word counts. In many ways, I'm reminded of poetry when I read some of this flash fiction, and several of the people who are in this collection are published poets, and you can tell by just how lyrical their writing is. But it is something that, as far as flash fiction, it is something that is very concise, has a very strong, again, I'll say beginning, middle, and end, and it ties together. I don't know, Kathleen, do you have any other comments about that?
Well, the only other thing I would add is we decided on 500 to 750 words. So we could have gone up to 1,000, but we decided between 500 to 750 words. Now, what was interesting, it's reminding me that we got some submissions that were 250 words, and we
Yes.
back out.
What happened to those?
Yeah, there was a good story there. It was just way too short. And we'd go back out, and often the person we'd go back out to would be surprised that it was only 250 words. I guess they hadn't checked the word count. And then we get stories that were quite a bit in excess of what we had asked for. So the process really, you have those outliers that you know you're not going to spend time with, and then you have the other ones that you go through, and we really did agree on most of them. We had very few where one of us liked it, the other one really didn't, and we had to sort of negotiate our way through very few of them. So we really were very in sync with what made a good story. If that narrative arc was there that Anne spoke about, the beginning, the middle, and the end, that it was really present even in that shorter piece. So it was very, very interesting going through and doing the selection and then the editing of the pieces.
Yes, and I noticed that our participants are joining us now, and I just welcoming everybody. And I know that you're going to be able to listen to this recording and catch up on the first part of this interview with Cathleen O'Connor and Anthony, who are the co-editors of this wonderful book, the collection Flash Fiction for Flash Memory. And you were saying that this kind of book is of great value to someone who doesn't have isn't able to remember things that from the beginning of a novel to the end. But isn't it also very much appreciated by other people in today's society where we don't have very much time for sitting with a book for a while, and our attention spans tend to be shorter than they used to be? So isn't this kind of book, I love the stories that I read, and I love that they were quick, and it didn't take me a week, to get to the middle of the plot. It happened in a few moments. So isn't it true that many people will love the stories in this book and love reading them in this form?
I mean, one of the things about flash fiction, it's really has grown in popularity, and I think it's because of the rise of the internet. There are hundreds of websites that are focused just on flash fiction, and some of the online journals now even have how many minutes it will take you to read a particular story. This will take 3 minutes. This will take 5 minutes, which I find somewhat interesting. The other thing is I also want to mention is that this isn't just for older people who have memory loss. It's also for younger adults who might have had some kind of brain injury, an aneurysm, or repeated concussions that have affected their memory. Those people who have been readers in the past prior to their brain injury might also enjoy reading this short. This book is so interesting, and I know I'm biased, but this book is so interesting and the stories are so entertaining that anyone will find it's something that they'd want to include in their own home library. And that's my unbiased opinion.
Yes, Kathleen, I know that we talked about wanting to have the opportunity for people to hear some excerpts of these short stories, and that you all were going to just kind of select some from, a random selection. So could you just read us a little piece of one?
I'd be happy to. So I'm going to read an excerpt from a flash fiction piece called The Dance, and it's by one of our IWWG members, Marissa Mox Unger. And Marissa is a poet primarily, and this was her first fiction piece. So I know she was very excited to be selected, and it's just a lovely little piece of fiction. So here's the excerpt. Gus danced with all the dames. He loved swing best. He began with East Coast swing, then he hopped to the cool moves of West Coast swing. He knew ballroom, the waltz, the foxtrot, and the rumba. Had Sister Immaculata to thank for that. She taught ballroom at St. Joseph's Orphanage. Gus fondly remembered dancing with the Riley twins, Diana and Donna. Unlike Gus, who was a resident until the day he graduated and left for basic training, the Riley girls were adopted at age 8. He thought both girls were dolls, but had an odd pang in his heart each time he held hands on the dance floor with Donna. Looking her in the eyes made his heart pound harder. It was for that reason Gus concentrated on the beauty mark under her left eye. The autumn day that they left, a hard downpour came outside, and it rained in Gus's heart that day too, as he watched Donna and Diana leave with their new family. So that's just one of the stories and just a little taste of what you might find in these various pieces. And we have, by the way, we have 4 members of the Guild who are in the book. Marissa, who I just read her excerpt, Susie Banks-Baum, who contributed both photography and a short story, Joy Ross Davis, who gave us a flash fiction piece, and also Linda Wisniewski, who wrote a lovely piece as well. So it was wonderful to have some of our sisters from the Guild represented in the book.
Yes. I have my copy, and I just wanted to share. I love this cover. And, I love the layout of it too. You have not only the stories, but also pictures and quotes in it. And I wonder, Anne, would you talk a little bit about how you came upon how to lay out all these stories once you decided which ones you were going to use?
Well, actually, Cathleen was the one who did the initial layout. She organized the stories. She came up with the idea of those pages with the book blurbs and the designs. I do want to talk a little bit about the cover, if I could. That was actually a painting that was an unfinished painting that I had bought long before this project ever came about. It was by Marilyn Penrod. She was a North Carolina artist who passed away in 2016. And the owner of Joyful Jewel, Mariah Wheeler, had put out a notice that they were selling off her paintings, finished and unfinished. And I saw this painting and I thought, oh my gosh, this is such a beautiful, all the colors, the book sitting there on the chair, it just was so inviting. And I thought, that's what I want to do as an artist, whether it's like being a painter or or a photographer or a writer. I want to continue to do what I love to do all the way up until the end. And that's what made me really want to purchase this unfinished painting by Marilyn. And when I showed it to Kathleen, I was really happy that she thought this would make the perfect cover for this anthology, because I think it is inviting, and was just, it kind of felt like it was the thing that was going to bound all of these wonderful stories together.
Mm. And would you select an excerpt to read from one of the ones that you have, Anne, please?
Sure. You know what? I actually want to talk a little bit about this writer, Joy Ross Davis. In the 2016 summer conference for the IWWG, Cathleen, Joy, and I were instructors, and we were roomies in the same dormitory at Muhlenberg College, where they hold the summer conference every year. And I met Joy, and I went to her workshop the first day, and I sat down and we started talking. And I was right in the middle of my mother having this major health crisis, and I started talking to her, and she started telling me about her own experience with her mother. And I thought, and she was just giving me, it was like an angel showed up, and I really truly mean that, to give me spiritual guidance and help at a time when I really needed the help. So it was a wonderful meeting, the two of them. So I'm going to read part of her story. It's called Silver Sequence by Joy Ross Davis. He said he had business to attend to at the Pistol Parlor, private client attorney business, the kind she was never allowed to witness. He handed her 2 slim stacks of bills, both secured by wide rubber bands. 10 $100 bills, he said. Go next door to the boutique and buy whatever you want, but use good taste. You need an outfit for the shindig at the relay house next week. Something dressy. I'll check on you when I finish. And you want me to pick it out myself? Jeannie asked. You hardly ever let me pick out my own clothes. He chuckled. Well, sugar, that's because you don't have very good taste. But give it a try. Maybe my sense of smile has rubbed off on you in the 4 years we've been married. Pick out what you want at Harrods, but I'll have the final say. And with that, he walked away.
Love it. Thank you so much. So Kathleen, can you talk a little bit about, well, first I want to know, for the photographs, did Anne pick the photographs because she's a photographer, or did you have say over that as a part of the layout of the book?
And the only role I had in the photography was reeling Anne in in terms of the number of photographs we would have in the book. Otherwise, I think we'd be discussing a book of photography.
And what did you try to match photographs with stories that you had,
Yes.
or they just, yes? Okay.
Yes.
And what about the
and
quotes, the quotes that you used in the book? How did you decide on what to use there?
Now, Anne was the one who handled the photography, and she was the one who made the suggestions as to which pictures might work with which stories.
Yeah.
And so then when I was laying out the book and putting them in an order, one of the things I was trying to do was spread the photography out a bit, if I could, so that, you'd read maybe every few stories, you'd have one with a photograph. And then my other contribution I get was I had the idea for a collage in the center of the book, so which turned out really well. And that was because these were some beautiful images that didn't necessarily go with any one particular story. But I think it's pretty amazing what Anne came up with in terms of which photographs go with which stories. They just work so beautifully.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I love this quote I just see. Books are uniquely portable magic, according to Stephen King. I love that. I'd like to just remind our members that are watching that if you have questions that you'd like to put forth for Anne or Kathleen, that you can type them in the chat box. And when we get a little bit further into the interview, we can go back and answer some of those questions. There's also a little device here at the bottom of the chat box. If you're there, it just says more, and you can click on it and you can save the chat box if you want for reading later. That's a nice feature here. You know what, Kathleen, I'm wondering if you would talk a little bit about the publishing process and how you decided to self-publish as opposed to traditional publish, and how you went about it.
Well, I had experience with the other anthology that I did, and a good experience using CreateSpace as the printer / publisher. And what Ann and I discussed, we talked about the fact that if you purchase your own ISBN, then you can have your own imprint. And we wanted to do that. And Ann was developing this idea for Anchala Studios as the imprint. So rather than have CreateSpace assign the ISBN, we purchased it so that it shows under the imprint. So CreateSpace then becomes less the publisher than the printer. So the publisher is Anchala Studios and the printer is CreateSpace. We didn't pay for any services from them. So we were probably not their favorite clients. I don't know. But we didn't really need to because of both of our experience. I had done layout. I knew how to download the template and worked with the style sheets. I had a graphic artist through Fiverr, Fiverr, who was wonderful. We gave her the picture by Marilyn, and she did the book cover design. And then I wrote the marketing copy on the back. We wrote the introduction together, and we just kept refining the process. It's labor intensive, but if you just stay with it and you just keep refining the process, and then you have chances to review the final version before you request the physical copy approved. And then eventually, once you sign off on it, you write your own copy unless you hire them for what goes up on Amazon as well. So we did all that ourselves. And then we wrote a promotional packet that we've sent out to all our co-authors so they can all join us tomorrow when we launch the book. And we gave them blurbs for Facebook posts and Twitter and for emails. So to make it as easy as possible for everybody to participate, because we have some writers who, don't do social media at all. So we made it easy. If they decide they want to do a little, they have something they can just copy and paste and send it out. So the idea to have a launch, a coordinated launch, is so hopefully tomorrow, because it's Read Across America Day, we can also get to that Amazon bestseller and be able to use that as we continue to market the book and do book signings going forward. So
I see that Read Across America Day was initiated in 1997 by the National Education Association, and the original idea was to read to a child or to read to a teen. But Ann, what is your idea about launching this tomorrow on Read Across America Day? What would you like people to do?
Sure. I had the idea that it would be a good challenge, I guess, to have people go out to visit with their grandparents or their parents, whether it's in the home, in an assisted living, a retirement home, and take our book, take any book, and read to them. You're right about Read Across America was intended to improve and encourage children to read, or to read to children. But I've been in many rehab places, many assisted living places, and there's a lot of people who are sitting there day in and day out with no one coming to visit them, no one entertaining them. And I thought this would be a good initiative to get folks there to go visit them. So that was my intention, to tie it to Read Across America Day.
Sounds like a wonderful idea. Thank you for that. Kathleen, would you read another excerpt for us?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I have to put my glasses back on because
Okay.
I've learned my lesson with the first one. I'm going to read an excerpt from a story called Highway Severance by John Baltusberger. My blood ran cold. The engine was off. There was no movement in the car other than the slight reverberations from the sound of something thumping in the trunk. A wild animal. Was I going to open the trunk to find some sort of rabid dog or a deranged raccoon with an attitude problem? I opened the door and slid out of the car slowly. I took several steps away, trying to decide what to do. I could always wait for the tow truck to get here. I wouldn't have to worry about dealing with whatever was going on myself. That didn't sound great. It made me look like a coward, for one. Shaking my head, trying to deny the insanity of the situation, I moved back to the car. It was sweltering out here. Whatever was in the trunk would be way too hot to be dangerous. Occasionally it thumped again, too loud to be a raccoon. Had to be some sort of dog that had slipped in while the cleaners weren't paying attention. It was the only thing that made sense. Taking a deep breath, I popped the trunk.
Wow.
And now you need to get the book to find out what was in the trunk.
Yes. Anne, do you have an excerpt for us?
Actually, I wanted to read something by Susie Banks-Baum. She had written a story, Fresh Green. She's also an IWWG member. And I met her the same conference when I met Joy and Kathleen. She sat down next to me at one of the workshops and we got to talking, and I just think she is a lyrical and beautiful writer. So let me just read this bit from Fresh Greens. This afternoon, Mom picked up Maxie and the girls at the library. Maxie steadied their tower of books under her chin so she could hold her youngest sister's hand in the parking lot. At the bank, the three girls stayed in the car reading. Maxie ran in after Mom. They waited on a leather couch, watching Ludington Street framed by the tall velvet curtains. Her boring town looked like a postcard, the Woolworths decked out for spring. Her mom went into the glass-walled office to talk to the man they knew from church. From where Maxie sat, tapping her clogs on the thick rug, she could see Mom's smile sink off her face. She could not hear what the man said, but from the sound of Mom's voice floating into the lobby for everyone to hear, it did not sound good. Her mom clutched her purse, her knuckles got white, and her face red. When she came out, she blasted right past. Maxie ran to the car. Mom got in, slammed the door hard, but said nothing. 3 sets of brown eyes peered over their books, each filled with questions for Maxie. She shrugged and buckled in.
Wow. Thank you. Now, I wonder, Marge, if you would share the screen with us so that we could see the pictures of some of the writers and then also the photographers. Is that possible?
Yes.
Thank you.
So folks, if you notice, if you go to the website, which I will type in the chat room, it'll also be an email that gets sent tomorrow with the recording, or tonight, I should say. If you go to the web page and go to the Meet the Writers page, you can click on anybody's picture. Let's just click on Susie's, and it'll go to her website. So you can investigate the readers, the folks whose pieces were read tonight, and anybody else. There's also a Meet the Photographers page. One second. Oh, there's the Meet the Editors page.
You already met the editors.
And if you'll forgive me, let me just let me find the other page. I thought I had it open. Yeah. So are you seeing that? Here's the photographers. And
Yes.
and it's really a beautiful website. Anne and Kathleen, you have done such honor to these writers and photographers and to yourself, to the art form. What an honor this is for people to appear in your anthology. And if I could, Greta, let you know that there are a few questions. There's one in the chat room. There's 3 in the Q&A.
So Anne and Kathleen, are you ready for a couple of questions?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, one of them was how you selected contributors, and yeah, one of them is how did you select your contributors?
I'll take that one. We talked about it a little bit earlier before everyone was on, but what we really were looking for was flash fiction pieces that were complete, that had a good beginning, middle, and end, and had a good story to tell, had characters that engaged us. The story either entertained or thrilled or warmed the heart or maybe even made you cry and especially made you laugh, some of them. So we were really looking for very complete pieces, little pieces, but they had to follow the narrative arc. So that was the process. And we said earlier that it was pretty amazing that I'd say for 95% of what we selected, Anne and I were in agreement on those stories. So we were very aligned in terms of the pieces we selected.
Well, how did people know that you were looking for these submissions? Where did you advertise it or post it, or how would people know?
Yeah, if I can take that, I think that might have been the actual question that was posted in the chat room. I had posted, like for weeks ahead of the opening of the submission to various flash fiction websites, various sites online that there's different groups that where you would post calls for submission. I also started posting photographs, black and white photographs, on my own Facebook page and another in Instagram, calling them a something to inspire them to write a piece of flash fiction. And actually, one of the writers in the anthology had seen one of my photos that I'd posted online and did write a story. That was Angela Kubinik. It went so well. The story went so well with the photograph that we ended up putting the photograph in the book as well. But I think we just kept pounding all of these websites, asking for people to submit. And wherever I went, and I think Kathleen did the same thing at the summer conference last year, wherever she and I went, we talked about the call for submissions, and here's a flyer, and it would be good to have your piece in the anthology. It took a lot of work, didn't it, Kathleen?
It did.
Yes.
But I bet it was fun too. Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Is there another question, Marge?
Yeah, Marisa, one of our contributors, asks, I read somewhere that the font was special to help people who have challenges with reading and memory help retain the text. What font was it and font size? What font and font size?
I'll take that. It was Anne and I had looked at that. We did some research. We did some Googling and some research to find out what fonts would make it easier for, maybe older adults in terms of reading. And we settled on a Helvetica font, and I believe it was 14 point was the size.
Yeah, it's very easy to read. And I wear glasses to read, but I don't need glasses to read this, and that is really helpful. It makes it so enjoyable to be able to read.
I agree.
Thank you.
Here's another question about the contents of the book. Gary, I may need you to clarify this because I'm not sure I'm understanding the question myself. It says, do you contemplate any parameters or control parameters to define your illustration vision when you convey to the artist? Maybe this is a question about the photographers. I'm not sure. I'm not quite getting what illustration vision means, Gary. So if you could clarify that. Then the other question, the follow-up to that is how or why do you think the right decibel of illustration is important to the written piece? That sounds like how things may have been paired.
So can you clarify the last part of the question that maybe they can answer more easily?
Well, yeah, I think how I'm understanding it is how might the illustration, the photograph, be important to the written piece?
Well, let me just talk about when we were in Philadelphia making our plans. One of the things we talked about was, should we have a theme for the book so that it would be easy for both the photographers and the writers to be working on one thing. Like you could have a theme about, I don't know, winter. So all of the photography would be winter shots, all the stories would have. And looking back, I really wish we had done something like that. Because what we ended up with were many photographs all over the place, because the call for submission that Greta had read earlier in this conversation was very much like the call for submission to the writers. Show us something that, you know, tugs at our heart. Show us something that delights us, you know, and frightens us. So we had, and I am actually amazed that the photographs that came in lined up so well with so many of the stories. So we really didn't do the photograph and the story together at all, but they just came together. So there really weren't, one really didn't lead the other as part of the submission process. It was only through the selection process that we decided. Although I don't know that we turned down any photographs or rejected any photographs that were really, Kathleen, I don't know if you can remember that were really good. I think we kept all the good ones.
Yeah, so Gary, I am going to read your question to honor because it's clear. I mean, as a writer, do you first systematically vision the artwork, photograph, or any other before working with the artist? I think that the photographs were also part of the submission process. There was no choreographing of what would come in from the co-editors. Is that correct? Fair to say?
Yes.
One more question, and folks, keep using the Q&A if you have more questions. Susan Hagen, thanks. Hello, could one of you speak more about how you're going to launch your book?
All right, I'll talk a little bit about that. We're really asking anyone who might want to get the book to buy it tomorrow on Amazon. And we really do have a call to action. We decided we wanted to align ourselves with Read Across America and ask people to go and read to, as Anne mentioned, maybe your extended family, your immediate family. And what's interesting is I had a bunch of friends over last week, and I had the book sitting there. We weren't talking about the book, and one of them said, "Oh, what's this? Your name's on the bottom." I said, "Well," and so I told them about it. Do you know, we had 6 women here. That wasn't the purpose. And they kept reading stories. They didn't want to put it down. And then one said, "Well, I want to read a story now." So that made me realize that, you know, we have something really lovely here. So I would say it makes a perfect gift for your friends. It makes something to do. If you're in a book club, everybody can read a piece of a story or read a full story rather than read a full book and come together to discuss it. So I'm starting to see there's a lot more opportunities for the book to be a gift. And I would encourage people, especially, that it would make a lovely gift for Mother's Day, which is coming up not too far away, especially if your mom may have a lifelong love of reading, but may not, be able to, whether it's memory loss or just eyesight or something else, maybe not able to read really long pieces. We also find that a lot of older people love the physical book, rather than the digital option. So again, it makes a lovely gift. And part of what we're going to do is Anne has already set up many speaking engagements. There's quite a cadre of contributors out of North Carolina. So there's a lot of events that have been set up for them. I'm setting up ones here in New York, and I had told Anne I've called several assisted living places, and in New York, because it's so cold up here, they all said to me, don't come till after flu season. So we're going to be doing a series of readings at different places, including local libraries, probably in the New York area, starting more towards late April. And we're also getting out there. Some of our co-authors have got radio spots and interviews going. I do, Anne does as well. So we're really looking to spread the word as broadly as possible and give the book a real opportunity to have an extended life, because it really is wonderful. These stories are just fabulous stories.
Kathleen, the last question is from Marisa, thinking about marketing for the book. Anyone else you think would benefit from the book? Marisa's suggesting English language learners. And anyone else?
Well, I think that really, as I said, as we're starting to understand ourselves, even though we had a demographic or a population that was the genesis and why we were writing the book, it has a much broader appeal. I think the idea of English language students is a great one, Marissa, so thank you for that. But also there are a couple of really cute stories that you can read to your children, or have your children read. I'm thinking of one. There's one about Alex at bedtime. That's a really cute story. It makes you laugh. It's so true of how children are when they're trying to avoid going to bed and they have their routines. So there are stories where you can encourage your children to read. There are other ones wouldn't be appropriate, obviously, for children. Because Read Across America Day also is for teenagers. These are great stories for teenagers to read and be inspired themselves to write. So I don't know if there's a segment. Someone asked me if I'd come down to NYU to the trauma center and read to wounded soldiers. And I said, absolutely, I'll be glad to do that. When they heard about the book, they said, wow, I think that would be wonderful. And so hopefully I'll get to do that. So there really are a lot of populations. I think the important thing is the connection with another person, because you not only are you reading, but now you're talking, you're conversing, you're hearing a little of their life. You're saying what you like about it. Maybe a photograph. Somebody might want to discuss the photograph. What does that image mean to you? So you start to, especially in adults with memory loss, I think you start to have those memories and those conversations. And it's the human connection. Above all, I think that is the real gift.
I was just noticing that there are stories in here that my granddaughter who's in middle school would love to read. And there are others that would be appropriate for high school students, just something quick and fun and enjoyable for them, as opposed to just something, a break from the studies. But really, I think that there are many more people that are going to be blessed by this book than you imagined in the very beginning. I'm really, really grateful for the work that you've done and everything that it took. And that first meeting where you all met together to talk, what date and year was that?
2017.
Really, just 1 year to pull it together.
Yeah.
To get it together and to launch it tomorrow for Read Across America, I think is wonderful. And I understand that both of you are going to be donating a percentage of the sales for every book that's purchased tomorrow. Is that true?
Yes, I'm going to be donating to the North Carolina Writers Network. It's an organization down here that really promotes and encourages beginning writers and established writers to write. It's been a great organization for me to be a part of. In fact, several of the writers in the North Carolina area are part of that organization, and we'll be reading tomorrow night for a launch at the Orange County Public Library. Very excited about that. And it's a celebration of the completion of this book and getting, many of them also have never had a flash fiction story published. They've been poets and they have the best stories. So I can't wait for that.
Wonderful. And Kathleen, who are you donating to?
I am donating to this wonderful organization called International Women's Writing Guild.
Yay!
Yay! I've been a member of the Guild since I was in my 20s. And it has been, I would say, the single biggest force in my life to hold the vision of myself as a writer, that I could be a writer, and then to keep me coming back to working on my writing. So I'll be donating to the Guild. So buy some books, folks.
Yes.
And so Greta, can I add tomorrow, folks? So tomorrow, March 2nd, on Read Across America Day, tomorrow's where all the magic of the numbers with Amazon rankings and money donated to the Guild into Anne's North Carolina Writers Organization. March 2nd, tomorrow. Greta, there's one more question. And the notion that this only took you a year to put together is feeds right into Marissa's last question, which is, do you foresee this being a series like Chicken Soup for the Soul?
That's what I was wondering myself. Will there be a sequel and people that perhaps want to submit for the next one? Is there another one in the works? In the vision?
I'm going to take that. No. And I think that's because we each have our own projects that we want to get back to. I have a novel I've just got to get finished. I'm determined. And Anne actually has a vision for this imprint that she's created, that she wants to do other projects. So Anne, maybe you are going to do other flash fiction or different, do you have an idea what you're going to be doing next?
Well, see, I think the first thing I'm going to do is take a really long rest. Because doing this in a year was a lot of work. And I'd like to do some writing of my own writing. It really took me away from my writing. And I'll think about it in about 6 months to see what the next thing is, the next project.
Wonderful. This has been so delightful and fascinating to spend this time with you and to hear about this wonderful project. And I know that we all are going to have the opportunity to purchase tomorrow on Amazon.com. Will you, each of us, tell us where we can find more about you? Because you both of you have done such wonderful things, projects and writings that I know that people want to know more about. My notes here, your essay, Anne, about In My Bones and Clearing Out Daddy's Basement, and Kathleen, your 365 Days of Angel Prayers, and the Everything Law of Attraction Dream Dictionary. Where can people find out more about you, and give us your website and other?
Yeah, it's anthony.weebly.com.
I think Anthony.weeby, is that it?
weebly.com.
Okay, maybe Marge can put that in the chat box for us. And how about you, Kathleen?
My website is my name, KathleenO'Connor.com. And if I could, I want to ask people, not only buy the book, but if you love it, put a review up, please, for us on Amazon. Reviews are so important. And a lot of times we forget to ask, I forget to ask, but every writer in the book will appreciate it if you take the time to put a review up on Amazon for us.
Yeah.
And if you like a particular story or a couple of stories, especially, note that, because the writers will appreciate that as well.
And I would also invite everybody, when you get the link to the YouTube video in your email from me tonight, tomorrow morning, it'll be in your inbox. If you could post it to your Facebook page, invite people to look at the video, tell them it's Read Across America Day, take a look at the book and purchase it tomorrow. That would be great.
And you can find me at Rev Greta. I'm a minister, so it's just REVGRETA, RevGreta.com. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, Anne. Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, Marge. Thank you, everyone that joined us. It's been wonderful. Good night.
Yeah, good night, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.